Man, they can't just leave bioterrorism alone, can they? G'day guys, MAT5 here, and today I'll be reviewing Resident Evil Revelations 2. So Resident Evil Revelations 2 is an episodic survival horror game that was developed by Capcom that I reviewed on the PlayStation 4. Of course, Resident Evil is a huge series which mainly focuses on bioterrorism, which results in a large cast of characters having to slay the undead and save the day. In Revelations 2, the game is set between Resident Evil 5 and 6, where you get to play as Claire Redfield and Barry Burton. Claire was a main character in Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica, and Barry was a side character in the very first Resident Evil game, and this is the first time you get to play as him. You are also accompanied by side characters Moira and Natalia. Moira is Barry's daughter, and Natalia is a mysterious little girl that for some reason possesses supernatural powers. The story revolves around Claire and Moira being abducted and brought to a mysterious island in which an unknown female who calls herself the Overseer is observing your every move via cameras and monitoring your progress. They also have these bracelets which monitor your fear and change colour the more terrified you get, and if you go too far then it can unleash a new and terrifying virus. Barry arrives on the island to look for them and quickly meets Natalia, and together they search the island and try and uncover its secrets while also trying to track down his daughter. Now I really like this idea that fear can trigger an unfortunate end, but unfortunately this is never really used as a gameplay element, so in the end it is rather pointless. The game was first released in episodic form, which resulted in 4 episodes overall, but the game can now be bought in full digitally or physically. So visually the game isn't the best, there is no wow in this game, and the bland overused environments don't really help either. But the game does contain some interesting creature designs though, especially the boss battles, but it keeps reusing these creatures, so the monsters you fight at the start of the game, you will still be fighting at the end of the game. When it felt like it was throwing a boss battle at me, it was awesome and I liked it, but then it comes back over and over again. They just keep reusing it and it becomes old fast. There are some awesome creatures with some unique ideas. I especially liked this one creature in which you have to shoot apart its body to reveal its weak spot, but then again you will be fighting this creature throughout the entire game. Combat in Revelations 2 is probably one of the best in the series. You can walk and shoot at the same time, dodge, sprint, and even crouch. Sure, the majority of the combat hasn't changed much since the first Revelations game, but it's still quite well done and fun to play. When playing single player, you can control one of 2 characters. Claire and Barry are the fighters, but Moira and Natalia can't really do much combat wise. Moira only has a crowbar and a flashlight for combat, which is used to blind enemies. It is also used to discover hidden objects in the environment. Natalia can only use bricks that she finds to attack or distract enemies, but she also has the added abilities to see enemies through walls and spot items in the environment. I think these characters are pretty useless, and I can't see this game being much fun playing co-op, especially since one player can't really do anything. Mostly they are used for opening chests and puzzle solving. I'm really happy to see some puzzles brought back to the series, but they are still overly too simple, and I just keep yearning for old school puzzles in the original series. I do love that the game introduces stealth for the first time, I think, in a Resident Evil game. It's simple but a great addition, and I want them to introduce this more in future games and improve upon it. The other big game changer that was in the previous Revelations game is the gun customization. Throughout the game you will find gun parts that can be used at benches to customize your weapons, from anything to additional damage to increased fire rate. I love this feature in the campaign, but it's even better in raid mode. In raid mode you get to choose and level up a character, collect guns with specific levels and stats, and collect awesome parts to add to them. The game consists of different challenges in which you have a simple objective, and I'm impressed that the game uses environments from previous games. Everything is based on levels and stats. Every single enemy has a level, and the higher it is, the more dangerous they are. I get a real Borderlands vibe playing this mode, as everything has levels, and even when you do damage, every hit has a number. There are even new daily challenges for you to complete for awesome coins and so on. I love this mode to death. I swear if they made a game purely based on this mode, I think it would be a huge crowd pleaser. Being able to go back through classic classic Resident Evil games fight classic enemies, it just sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. The game also contains local and online co-op for the entire campaign, so at least you have the option if you dare, but also for raid mode, which is probably the best way to play split screen. So for the major downsides, such as the bland visuals and environments, reused enemies, and weak side characters, is that overall the game just isn't scary. A Resident Evil game unfortunately hasn't been scary in a long time, and this game doesn't buck the trend, which is sad and very disappointing, especially with a story based around fear. They could have done something really different and unique. Also, at times the writing isn't all that great, with some stupid dialogue which mostly comes from Moira. I know she's supposed to be this typical angry teenager stereotype, but man, she can sometimes be annoying, but also equally funny at times. And finally, throughout the game you collect special items that equal to experience points, and you also earn experience points when completing an episode. They are used for upgrading your skills in a skill tree kind of way, but unfortunately, despite there being a decent amount of skills, they are mostly uninteresting and don't feel like they improve anything, which is a real shame. I really hate bad skill trees in games, and Revelations 2 unfortunately is one of them. Also, and this isn't a con anymore, but originally it was, but the ending is terrible. But I recently discovered that there are 2 endings to this game, and I was unfortunate enough to get the bad one, so just be aware of that if you get stuck with the bad ending like I did. So in the end, Resident Evil Revelations 2 is not an amazing game, but it is at least a fun game with great encounters, fun controls in combat, and especially the raid mode. The game had potential and some great ideas, but it's just filled with mediocrity that just brings the game down. So in the end, I have to give Resident Evil Revelations 2 a 6.5 out of 10. The game just misses the mark of being a recommended title, but its ideas just seem exhausted and repetitive. Overall, I did have fun with the game and did like some of its ideas, but unfortunately were brought down by some really bad decisions. The raid mode is probably the most fun you will get from this game because in the end the campaign's highlighting plot isn't taken advantage of and just turns out to be another typical Resident Evil story that we've all played before.